Good morning and welcome to the Sunday service. This morning we're going to meditate few minutes. After the meditation, Venerable Sanatha Vihari is going to give a Dhamma Talk. Venerable Sir, very happy to see you today after a long time. So we really appreciate you have been here. Right now, Venerable Panyaloka is going to lead the Metta meditation.
It's time for us to practice the loving kindness meditation. Take a moment to relax yourself. Have your comfort zone, and it could be on a chair, on your bed, leaning against the wall, where it is you find comfortable. Be relaxed. Only if you are comfortable, you can close your eyes. Start spreading loving kindness thoughts to yourself first, and then you can spread loving kindness thoughts to the whole universe. Breathe in and breathe out slowly. Again and again, take a breath in and breathe out. We are going to follow the metta thoughts in the IBMC chanting book, which is on page 11. Practice these loving kindness thoughts. May I be well and happy, peaceful and free from suffering. May no harm come to me. May no difficulties come to me. May no problems come to me. May I always find fulfillment. May I also have patience, courage, understanding, and determination to meet and overcome the inevitable difficulties, problems, and failures in life. Like this, you can reflect on your good qualities and spread this loving kindness thoughts to yourself. May my teachers, all Dharma teachers, parents, brothers and sisters, friends and relatives, all those who are indifferent to me, all beings in the universe, may they be well and happy, peaceful and free from suffering. May no harm come to them. May no difficulties come to them. May no problems come to them. May they always find fulfillment. May they also have patience, courage, understanding, and determination to meet and overcome the inevitable difficulties, problems, and failures in life. May all beings be well, happy, and peaceful. You can spread these loving kindness thoughts to the whole universe like this and stay in silence meditation for a couple of minutes. And when you hear the bell, you can stop this meditation just for now.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you, Venerable Panyaloka, leading the meditation. Right now, it's time for the Dhamma Talk. As you know, today our speaker, Venerable Sanatha Vihari. I think last time he gave a talk here 7-8 months ago, maybe more than that. After the talk, he visited in East Coast and many places and just come like last month. And we talk about this month our Dhamma Talk. Then he said, yes, Bhante, I will come, I will do it. This morning when I talking again, he said he's going next week again to the Asia, to Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand, Laos, so many places. Plus, he's going to walk from where to where?
Thailand to northern Vietnam.
1,000 miles, 3 months walking. Well, good luck. So he said he will come back again in the March. Make sure to around the March, April, come and give another talk here, Venerable Sir. Okay, thank you being with us here today. You can start your Dhamma talk right now.
First and foremost, my deepest respects to our local Hamdru and to the members of the Mahasangha, Upasikas, Upasikas, and Buddhist friends and people who are watching in the future online. Thank you so much for having me here. Again, for some of you that don't know, I grew up down the street over here by 8th and Vermont and then by Union Street in the late 80s and early 90s. And I wish I knew this temple was here back then, but I was too small and I probably wouldn't understand. But I'm so happy. It always feels like a homecoming when I come here. I was telling Justin, pointing out all the places that, I used to visit and how things have changed around here so much, but also remain the same. So before my Dhamma talk, I'd like to pay my respects to the Buddha. Namo tase bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhase. Namo tase bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhase. Namo tase bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhase. So today I want to talk about sukha. Sukha is pleasantness, happiness, satisfactoriness. So many, sukha so big. It's just like dukkha, right? Dukkha, suffering, pain, affliction. So many ways we can think about sukha and dukkha. And usually when we come into the Dhamma, or our emphasis in the Dhamma is about the problem, right? Dukkha, of birth, sickness, old age, death, not getting what you want, getting what you don't want, and losing what you love. Those are just some of the dukkhas, right? More obvious ones. And when we look at the Four Noble Truths, we see the order that the Buddha presents his teachings, the Arya Dhamma. First, dukkha, then samudaya, right, which is tanha, craving, thirst, desire. So these two have to do with the problem. But the third noble truth and the fourth noble truth, which doesn't really get permeated into society, that's why people think Buddhists are so negative, right? Because they never get to the third and fourth step. They just hear us say dukkha, dukkha, they're like, enough already. But the next one is nibbana, right? Nirodha. And the Buddha said, nibbanam paramam sukham. Nibbana, nirodha, cessation, is the highest happiness. So, problem is dukkha. The solution is actually sukha, happiness. Some of us may think that sukha is like once you become an arahant, then is when you get the sukha. Or like, oh, at least once I become a stream enterer, then I'll get the sukha. But no, no, no. The sukha is available here and now. That's the beautiful thing about the teachings of the Buddha. Freedom is not in another heaven. It's not some other place. And you don't have to die to get your reward. You know, and some other points of view, some other philosophies, the only way you get reward, you have to die. No thanks. I want it now. So sukha is actually the way to freedom. My teacher, Bhante Puniji, who passed away a couple of years ago, he would say people misunderstand the Buddhist lifestyle. They think that the monastic path, the renunciation path, is one of asceticism, right? Like stoicism, self-mortification. The monks deny themselves everything. They live these cold, poor, miserable lives, right? And that's what the monastic path is. And that the lay people, well, they can enjoy their lives, right? They can take in all the pleasures and do whatever they want. And my teacher would say, this is a false dichotomy. This is not the way that Dhamma should be understood. Both the lay people and the monks are following the Majjhima Patipada, the middle way, right? It's not about indulging in sensual pleasures. Sensual pleasures in and of themselves are not bad. The Buddha had an amazing scented chamber, right? He had like a spa where all these beautiful flowers he could smell, right? And the Buddha would go eat at the king's palace, and they would give him amazing dishes, amazing curries. So the Buddha was not scared of pleasure, right? By no means at all. Also, the Buddha didn't endorse pain. He didn't force everyone to take the rules that Devadatta, right? The Devadatta proclaimed of all this very extreme asceticism. He said, no, no, no. If you want to, the monks who want to, they can do. But I will not force everyone to do it. So the Buddha also, you know, wasn't against strict training. For some people, they can handle the pleasure. It's fine. For some people, they can handle the pain. That's fine. Just do not think that pleasure in and of itself or pain in and of itself will give you freedom. Don't make that mistake. That's not the objective. But just because they're not the objective, the goal, doesn't mean they're not part of the path. Throughout our lives, we will experience both dukkha and sukha, pain and pleasure. We will experience domanassa, mental affliction, and somanassa, like great happiness, great well-being in our minds. So which is the way that the Buddha found liberation from suffering? He actually found it through happiness. So when we read the suttas, the Buddha tells us himself, he recalls when he was the Bodhisattva, right? And he had just finished giving up the ascetic practices with his 5 friends, right? He starts thinking like, man, I've been wasting my time. I almost died. I passed out. All these things. I've been starving myself. I haven't gotten better. This has all been a waste of time. Then he recalls, oh, when I was a young man, right? When in the post-canonical story says that he was a baby, but we don't really know, you know, but like he was young. The Buddha was young. Prince Siddhartha was young. And everyone was like enjoying their lives in the festival, right? Chasing sensual pleasures. They were enjoying the festival. His dad and everyone, even his nannies, they left him. They abandoned this kid. They were supposed to be taking care of him, right? Because his father was protecting him. They were never supposed to let Prince Siddhartha out of their sights. This time they left him out of their sights, and guess what happened? Prince Siddhartha spontaneously went into jhana under the rose apple tree. He remembers that, and he's like, wow, that was actually a very pleasant sukha. That was very much sukha. Could this be the way to awakening, to liberation? This sukha? He goes, why was I afraid of pleasure? If the pleasure is non-sensual, right? If it's not kamma, if it's not driven through sensuality, then there's nothing wrong with this pleasure. So then he practiced, right? And it was through this discovery of blameless pleasure that he went through all the jhanas and reached liberation. There's another sutta where the Buddha goes through every single jhana, and he says the result of this is happiness. First jhana, happiness. Second jhana, happiness. Third jhana, happiness. Fourth jhana, happiness. Infinite space, happiness. Infinite consciousness, happiness. Nothingness, happiness. Neither perception or non-perception, happiness. And then he goes, neither perception or feeling happiness. And then they go, wait a minute. If there's no feeling or perception, how can there be happiness? And he goes, oh, the Tathagata, when he speaks about happiness, he's not only talking about feeling, Vedana, a pleasant feeling. There are so many other kinds of happiness beyond the pleasant feeling. So this whole path, this whole meditative path, we find sukha, 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 sukha all the way. And then at the end, once we go through this whole journey of insight, going through all the jhanas and seeing reality and getting the knowledges. Actually, there's another sutta where the Buddha says that the knowledge is also happiness, the insight. The yatha bhuta, that also is happiness. And then the final goal, liberation, nibbana paramam sukham, is also happiness. In the gradual training, he says giving, practicing dana is happiness. That's why we say what? Anumodami, anumodana. Rejoice, be happy when you give. Let's all be happy. We rejoice when other people give. Right? Also practicing sila is also happiness because we're giving beings the freedom from fear. So they don't have to worry about us. And we're also blameless. We're not worried about like, is the police going to come and get me, or the neighbor's going to try to come get revenge on me? Is karma going to come back at me like we think in the West, right? Is my karma come and get me? Am I going to go to hell? Right? Is King Yama going to punish me? You're free from all those things. That's a happiness, right? That freedom from fear. In Spanish, you say, el que no le debe, no le teme. He who does not owe does not fear. That's a happiness also. By practicing sila. And then I already talked about meditation, but also hearing the Dhamma makes you happy. Actually, so many people reach liberation or different levels of awakening just through hearing the Dhamma, right? Through hearing the Dhamma. Those are called Sravaka or Savaka Buddhas, those who awaken through listening. They became happy. So even just listening to the Dhamma is beautiful. The Buddha calls it Dhamma Piti, right? The joy of the Dhamma, listening to the Dhamma. So the way to end dukkha is through sukha. So obvious. But you know, I didn't get it. I was very much a self-mortification guy. You know, I was like, we got to be tough here. You know, I came from the military and martial arts. I was like, I got to be a tough guy here and go through the pain and make myself suffer. And the Buddha almost starved himself and he did all these crazy austerities. But I forgot to notice that the Buddha said that all of that was wrong. You know, I was trying to follow his path, but the Buddha's telling us, don't make the same mistakes that I did. I already opened the path, right? There's a sutta where he talks about an ancient city in the forest. He says, I already opened the path for other people to go through. You don't have to do all that. You don't have to go through all that pain. You don't have to try to be a Pacceka Buddha. A lot of Westerners want to be Pacceka Buddhas. You know, there's the kind of popular, I'll do it on my own, this kind of do-it-yourself, Home Depot kind of Buddhism. You don't have to do that. The Buddha, out of his great compassion, right? Maha Karuna Samapati, his great compassion, already opened the path, already showed us the way. And the way to freedom is through happiness. So rejoice, be happy, right? But let's not confuse it with like hedonism. That's not what we're saying, right? It's not that type of happiness, right? The Buddha very clearly tells us in that first sutta that I mentioned that happiness is blameless because it's non-sensual. So it's non-hedonistic. It's a different kind of happiness. It's a lokutara, not lokiya, right? Beyond the world. Because it doesn't depend on tasty things or beautiful sights or nice sounds or any of these things. It's the happiness of goodness, of doing good. That is the real happiness. The Buddha said that the Dhamma is beautiful in the beginning, beautiful in the middle, beautiful at the end. Happiness in the beginning, happiness in the middle, happiness at the end. It's always happiness, right? So when you're practicing, yes, we'll experience some physical pain. All of us here, most of us didn't grow up like sitting on the ground, except for maybe some of the Bantes here, you know, or if you're Asian, you will experience pain. And when you're trying to study the suttas, you will also experience maybe some domanassa, some mental affliction, trying to understand, oh, the sutta is so cryptic. How am I going to get it? Right? So there will be some difficult times. But as you practice more, you'll find more ease. You'll find more grace. You'll find more happiness in those practices. The physical pain will be there. We can't do nothing about it. We have this body. It has nerves, and it sends us pain signals. What's our relationship to that, right? We can change our relationship to that. And even within the pain, we can find those little gaps of insight that bring us happiness. And the happiness of knowing that in the future, we'll experience happiness due to our practice. So all of this to say is that please focus on the pleasantness, the happiness that comes to you in the practice. If you've been practicing for many years and you're just as miserable, you need to change your practice, right? The proof is in the taste of the pudding. It doesn't matter who the teacher is, if he's a Mahatera, Raja Pandita, whatever his title is. If it's not working for you, it is not working for you. You need to try something else. That has nothing to say about the teacher or his system or the method. It's just not for you. So you need to find the path that increases beneficial states, the Buddha always said, right? Kalama Sutta. That increases wholesomeness. You see that you're progressing towards something. So sukha is the path. It's the beginning, it's the catalyst, the middle, the objective, and it's also what tells us that we're on the right path. It lets us know if we're making progress on the path. So this was my TED Talk on happiness. I don't know. And why you should be happy. And luckily enough, there's no like installment payment plan of $19.99 for the whole lecture. So that's all I wanted to share with you. And Bhante knows that I love the Dhamma discussion, not the Dhamma talk. So discussion means dialogue between all of us here talking. So with this, I'll be finishing my talk, and Bhante, we can do the Q&A.
All right, thank you so much for Venerable. And so I think we have a lot of questions we can discuss, whatever. So if anybody have any question or any comment, yes.
There's a lot for this and from your age.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, thank you.
Wonderful talk, Bhante. How can we embrace what you spoke about in terms of like finding happiness through goodness in our society, which really pushes the hedonistic lifestyle through marketing and all that? What would be the best way for us as Americans?
So there's two things that come to mind. One of them is just do it, like Nike, right? In the beginning, we struggle to connect with that happiness, that selfless happiness. But it's just like learning a new language or, exercising, where it takes a long time to see results, or trying a diet, right? It requires some consistency. So the first thing is just do it. Just start doing it. Just keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it. And the other thing is to work with your environment, right? So try to the extent that you can, to the measure that you can, align your life and your lifestyle and the people that you associate with, right? To the people who are also focused on the same objective. It's going to be very difficult for you to practice selflessness, altruism, and compassion if you're just around a bunch of haters. Haters going to hate, right? So you got to get out. You got to get out of that circle. If you're in a competitive job where it's a dog-eat-dog world, it's going to be very difficult. Does that mean you might have to lose out on some opportunities or some money? Or maybe. But what's more important to you? That's up to you. Is money and status more important up to you? Or is your well-being and the well-being of others more important to you? That's a question we all need to sit with. What are our values? What's our North Star? What's important to us? And redirect our life in that way. So it's just about doing it and doing it and doing it over and over and over again. And the other part is creating the causes and conditions to help you thrive, right? You can't expect to thrive in a hostile environment. It's very difficult. So those are the two things that come to mind right now. Yes.
Just first of all, thank you for your talk. It was timely. I wanted to kind of share an experience I had while meditating today, because it brought me that kind of joy.
Okay.
Somehow my back actually relaxed and my spine went into place. It was like clicking into place while I was meditating, and I'm like, that's the opposite of what usually happens. And I found a lot of joy in that. So small moments.
That's the joy of letting go, of relaxation, passaddhi. I think this is the real, what you're pointing out. This is, to me, what really got me to understand the type of happiness that Buddhism is offering. It's not an excitement. Usually we correlate happiness with excitements, but the happiness of Buddhism comes from relief. letting go of the tension, letting go of the burden, letting go of the stress, whether it's physical or mental or out in the world. When we just drop things, like getting home from a hard day's work, right? Just that is the happiness. That is the relief from dukkha. So thank you for that example. That is exactly what, what I've seen in my own practice to be the real happiness. Letting go. Yes.
Thank you, Lance, for your talk. I just wanted to share, really appreciate your talk and focus on not being taken pleasure. I just wanted to share that I think it's Digine Kai 29, where I think the Buddha says, if you're accused of being against pleasure, that's mistaken, like that. If you're accused of going after sensual pleasure, that's also mistaken. We do go for pleasure, but it's like pleasure in the jhana is like the mental pleasure. So, and it just reminded me of that.
Yeah. Pleasure is the path, it's the way, but it's non-sensual. Yeah, so it's everywhere. If we read the suttas, we'll see that the message is everywhere, but we selectively pick our own defilements in the suttas and we go with that, right? I'm just as guilty as anyone else of doing that.
I was going to relate to that you mentioned that Buddhism prohibits you from doing, the wonderful things that this world has to offer. But in reality, what we need to analyze it, or what I try to do is I limit what comes through my senses. So if, for example, I can't sleep at night and then I watch a horror movie, well, that's what I'm. If I'm trying to have a peaceful night and a peaceful thought and emotions, well, you can't do a movie like that, right? Or you're like you said, near people that are negative and just all this horrible things. Whether you want it or not, you absorb it, right? You even take it home and see those better things. I don't know. So I think that what I've tried to do is limit everything. Because I've analyzed everything. I have a heavenly on and go to bed. Just everything that we do, we need to sort of like pay attention to how we respond to it. And does that help us? Does that help us grow? And are we happy with what we do? The news and just everything that we do is what I try to do to friends. And then we'll try to do mistakes.
Yeah, you just pointed out the training that the Buddha said we need to do is called Indriya Samvara. We can translate it as filtering the senses, restraining the senses, protecting the senses, right? Guarding the senses. So that's what you've been doing, right? And then the Buddha also said, before we do something, we need to consider whether it's good for us, good for others, good for all. While we're doing it, we look at what's happening. Is it good for us, good for others, good for all? And after we've done it, we reflect, was it good for me, good for others, good for all, right? So there is this constant investigation that we're always doing when we're watching, listening, smelling, tasting, touching, and everything that we do, analyzing, right? Yeah. So that's the way we are able to break the patterns. First, we need to become aware of them, see what are the results, and then make the changes. But it all starts with first being mindful, right? Becoming conscious of what's going on and how you react to these things.
Even when you see dukkha, I sometimes there's something, and I don't see it as negative. I see it an opportunity to learn. What I need to learn. Why am I missing? Why am I feeling all these things, negative things? I'm locking that kind of like whatever that I'm feeling. I have to say that the opposite.
Well,
so the negative things happen. So I know this and
yes, there's definitely a lot we can learn from these unskillful or bad or painful experiences, right? Especially how to avoid them. We start seeing a pattern. Okay, I need to change this pattern. And where is this pain coming from? Not only from the outside, but from the inside, right? Where is this coming from? Is it coming from pride? Was my pride hurt? Is it coming from fear, from security? You know, so there's things we can learn from it, but that doesn't mean also that we should go looking for pain, right? Like, or like ruminate on the pain, right? Like when we see it, we investigate it, and then we apply the necessary antidote or response. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you for your thoughts on today. Yeah, as we were talking earlier about like happiness being something that's accessible in the moment, it reminded me of that 80s song, like Heaven is a Place on Earth.
Oh yeah.
It's like, yeah, when it's like, they say that in heaven love comes first, but let's make heaven a place on earth.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I kind of know
yeah. Yeah, we're having a little flashback Sunday here, right? Nice, nice. Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's what Brahma Vihara is, right? The dwelling, the godly dwellings, the loving dwellings, the compassionate dwellings. And you don't have to travel in space to go to the divine dwelling, the Brahma Vihara, and you don't have to die and be reborn in the Brahma Vihara. The Brahma Vihara is available to you right now with loving kindness, with love. Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
I was thinking yesterday on I go out every evening on a walk in the park, and I just like zone out after my day of therapy session. And then I overheard a daughter and her father. They were just chatting, and I just felt this like energy of stress around me. And I listened. I wasn't trying to listen, but I heard it was like she just seemed so distressed, talking about something like day-to-day stuff. And it just made me, it clicked to me, like what we speak, on a day-to-day really can affect how we feel. It's a bit of a topic of these things, but I think that sometimes we have to be mindful of our speech, how we can affect ourselves, affect others, right? And that's how I think like that happiness too, right? And I remember just thinking to myself like how like a lot of times like growing up even like there's this feeling of, oh, let's all come to talk about our problems, sit around and have tea and chat about our issues, right? And I feel like that fuels a sense of like kind of pleasure with that pain. And it can be beneficial to release it, but I think that sometimes we have to find that conscious balance, even when engage with others that are doing that, right? And then set the boundaries. And so now I've learned to notice that in certain people in my life and see if people maybe overdo that. Where it's like, okay, there's a certain extent to where I feel like too much, but it's that healthy way of releasing. But I think being mindful of our speech and our energy and who we're surrounded by, like you said, is very, very important.
Yeah, I think you point out something very, very interesting, Stephanie, about how there's this negative bias in our culture too, right? Like we're quick to point out the faults. Bante, actually, we were just talking about this earlier, right? People have 99% good things happening in their life. 1% happens bad. They come to the temple and they complain how life is dukkha and the whole world is falling apart, right? And it's like, how was the rest of your day? Oh, the rest of it was good, but this one thing that happened, right? So we're always like focusing on the dukkha.
That is so main and healthy day. There's to find place to release that, right? My day. I don't know if you've heard that. I'm sure you've heard like that. There's a white paper and there's one black dot and you fixate on the black dot, right?
Yeah.
I feel like maybe that's what you actually think about the top. But yeah, I just noticed that sometimes like there's a tendency to we might not even be aware of it sometimes, but there's just like when people say, how are you, right? And then it goes straight into something else, right?
That's something what people in other countries complain about Americans a lot. Because when I've been traveling, they're like, when an American tells you how are you, they don't really care how you are. It's just like saying hello. So we don't, that's what you're saying. They just move on, like moving on. If someone were to ask you, how are you? You're like, oh, I'm miserable, this and that. They'll be like, whoa, 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 take it easy, I was just saying hello. That's a very American thing to do, We're like, we do that kind of thing. But imagine if we could get together also to congratulate each other and to show gratitude, right? So, we do need to talk about the problems, but we also need to talk about our successes and how we appreciate each other. So we need to find that nice balance, right? Between the sukha, acknowledging the dukkha, but also working towards the solution, which is the sukha.
Like acceptance for the actual people, right?
Mhm.
It's like sometimes it's like we don't want to immediately maybe share the things that are going wrong in our lives, maybe because of shame or
Mhm.
not wanting to share, maybe because someone might be a burden, whatever it might be, right?
Mhm.
But there's like also like a lack of acceptance of others' issues, right? Because
Mhm.
we need to sometimes even just pretend, oh yeah, everything's okay,
Mhm.
right? So I think it's like being able to, like you said, find a balance of both.
Mhm.
You can exist with both things, right? So,
Thank you. Thank you, Stephanie.
Anybody on this Zoom? If nobody actively, I don't think.
Wait, just one. Yes. Go.
I started thinking in a bit about, and certainly with much of my practice has been in adjustment about but non-monastic meditation. Is that tendency to focus on psychology fundamentals. But who knows more? Much of the that would tend to emphasize renunciation.
Mhm.
And a lot of them were heavily influenced by teaching in Western Buddhist Theravada based Republic context.
Mhm.
So renunciation is fanatically
Mm.
more so.
Mhm.
I think that's part of it. But at the same time, there's this fear of something that there is associated with escapism,
Mhm.
which the need to escape, which need to bypass certain negative emotions by getting low.
Mhm.
And so the trick often seems to be, and I'd love to hear you speak on this, is one teacher often likes to talk about things through prototypic apparatus.
Mhm.
These are sensation-specific, fast-moving chain from sense contact to proliferating thoughts, etc.
Mhm.
And a lot of people get scared or disappointed when she points out that increased sexual pleasure, sensual pleasure, this. For her, the key to let go was remembering that this is just sensation. But then when you talk about more lasting pleasures, many people, especially those influenced by like the Burmese and sex school, tend to see that it requires too much time to get concentrated enough. Most lay person, no matter how dedicated it is, simply do not have the time to get to the point where they can access that kind of deeper pleasure. So I guess I'm asking two things. A comment on, maybe a practical advice on knowing when to let go of sensual pleasure. Because they will come in mind. We shouldn't reject those either, but we should think how do we avoid falling into the trap. And I guess the second question is, what do you say when people say, well, it's maybe defensively, and we can quickly focus on the negative side of the practice because it just takes too much time to get, which is also the arguments and you would say, why inside practice is kind of privileged for the teaching trauma, that's the body practice. So I don't know if that makes sound really complicated.
So the second one is just very simple to me when you look at the Buddha's gradual training. So this selfless happiness starts right in the beginning, and the beginning of the practice is called dana. So that happiness that comes from rejoicing. I mean, you don't have to go on a jhana retreat for months. You can get that pleasure from giving. You can rejoice, and it just takes for you to go out and give something to someone and help. So it's available to you right now. You know, the deeper pleasure of jhana, yes, I totally agree. It's very difficult for lay people, but the pleasure that you get from dana, the pleasure that you get from sila, the pleasure that you get from listening to the Dhamma, I mean, anyone can get that. And I think we need to emphasize that. We need to let people know that happiness is available to them in their everyday lives, and that happiness is not just for monks or for people who are full-time meditators, right? So I think we need to focus more on this very entry-level happiness. Yes, it's not as happy as jhana, but it is a blameless happiness. So it's available there.
That's good now.
Yeah.
When you have that set up, sit for 5 minutes. You already have this background of like goodness, so you don't need to spend it on you could sit in your good action in a way, so it kind of speeds up the process.
Field of merit.
Yeah, so if you're just sitting there and you haven't done anything good, you might have to be you have that field behind you with some home. But I've seen that through my experience of my life. When I'm doing good and I sit, it's easy. When I'm breaking the precepts or balance. That's how. Oh, that's what you're saying.
Yeah, that's my experience. What you just said, that's exactly how I've seen the practice play out. And what was the other one? What was the first question?
Slippery slope. Because in this life, you will have to, you will have some low level life everyday stuff into like, I just had a back injury on 2 surgeries. I've actually, well, I started practice was the financial fallout. But the slippery slope between when sensual pleasure does come, just as the levels naturally have an evolutionary to go through the fire.
Yes.
Even what I'm trying to say about the happiness of living according to the precepts. So there's slippery slope there, there's the righteousness, you're like, yeah, I don't. But what are there any tips for our daily lives to be aware of when we're sliding in when pleasure turns into a setup for dukkha? Because of things, experience pleasure, sense-state, grasping, that's just setting myself up for when it goes away.
Yeah, there's two types of like desires or clingings, right? There's the one that clinging to like sensual pleasures, and then the other cling is the aversion to painful things. They're both clinging, right? So for me, in my own experience, I mean, this is the way my mind works. Once I start seeing stories in my head, it's a pretty good indication that there's some clinging going on there. So there's the raw experience of like pleasantness or the raw experience of pain. And then once like some sort of justification or papancha, something, okay, now here we go, right? Like, I don't like this, I hate this, I don't want it again. Or like, I really like this, I should be more, I'm a good Buddhist, etc. So usually the story, when you start telling stories, that's a good indication that you're going off what's happening. So that's the way I work with it. I'm always doubting myself. Actually very skeptical of my own thoughts. Some of my friends have pointed out to me, they're like, Bhante, you're too critical, but I am very skeptical of what I tell myself all the time, just to really investigate, am I fooling myself? Am I deceiving myself in the practice? So that's just the way I've noticed it. So pay attention to the stories you tell yourself.
Okay, I've got the not self part of the practice. Like you said, like you kind of see the stories and stuff. And I try to remember that. Get lost in the process. Easier to work with than hold myself. If you're going to hold in the future, instead of letting it be like a big deal, you're seeing it as like a chain of things results happening without you being there and like owning the whole legal thing. That's also hard to do, but it has to be tempered.
Just being able to do something I don't know, it just happens so fast. It's driving so crazy on retreat. Or if I could just picture pleasant and neutral, feeling something. You're already 6 miles down the road. By the time you back off into the form, that you're already in the Shane Lane storytelling type.
So I think we're running out of time. So just Nam, if you would like to give some final words.
Yes. First, thank you for coming back today.
Yes, yes.
I'm so happy you're back today. And another happy is I heard you go to Vietnam and probably travel a lot in that area. And I hope you can even talk in Vietnam, because I know a lot of Buddhists, Vietnam Buddhists, love to do an American monk or foreign monk. Talk.
Yes.
It is somehow make you happy.
Okay.
I hope another one is I hope that you can bring you to the TV to interview. A lot of time, a lot of months they go to Vietnam, they on TV. And since you travel to outside the country, is something that's on my mind about the war right now. You know the war is over, and not over there inside the country, in the USA now. We had the war, one for this one to the other country, and then to fighting. So what can we do anything as we practice anything because I always think about it, turn the TV on, the news always talk about it. So especially today, this morning before the time, we talk about it. So what do we do? What do we need to do about it? Think about it.
Well, I think here, to me, what seems like the natural solution is to take the words of the Buddha very seriously. When Ananda told the Buddha that half of the spiritual path is Kalyanamitas, right? And the Buddha corrected him, said, no, it's the entire path. The spiritual path is impossible without Kalyanamitas. So when we're confronted by all the worldly vicissitudes, the Ataloka Dhamma, when we're confronted by all this conflict around the world, there's where we connect with our community, right? The Sangha, the Mahasangha, the supporters. So having good friends around you, having a wise friend to support you all the time. So it's really about having a good community. A community is a protective factor, a supportive factor, something that helps resilience, right? And also promotes self-growth and nourishment. So when you find yourself kind of struggling, lean on your friends, lean on your Kalyanamitas and call them and tell them, hey, I'm having little problems. And yeah, I think we need to work more on like this kind of bringing everyone together. Kind of, I feel like a lot of times, Bante, the temples are too separate from each other, right? And this is our Sangha, that's your Sangha. Yeah, we go to each other's ceremonies, but and there's kind of like these loyalties to certain groups and stuff. So, but like we should be there for each other regardless and build a more kind and compassionate Sangha. We talk so much about kindness and compassion, but we need to bring it into action by actually being there for others and being vulnerable to lean on others. So yeah, the world's very difficult, but you have all these beautiful friends here, Nam, and you're not alone.
Thank you, Venerable. I think time is almost running very fast.
Yes.
So we have to stop the program. So thank you again for being with us, and we wish you safe trip back to the Vietnam, Cambodia, and back to Los Angeles. Hope to see you in the Los Angeles around March or April. All right, thank you again. And we will turn the page 4 and page 10. Namo
Namo tassa bhagavato
Bhagavato
arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang saranang gacchami. Dhammang saranang gacchami. Sanghang saranang gacchami. Ancient beings are numberless. I vow to save them all. Deluding passions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them all. Dharma gates are limitless. I vow to study them all. Buddha's way is supreme. I vow to attain it. May suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear-struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and the sick find health relief. Dujung sangge nai con ai con ne di du con đốc phổ Phật ôi di đại đẳng dù chúng sangge nai con ai con em đi đủ con đốc khổ cặp ô nha đi nhai đằng dù chúng sanh ghê nhai Om
Thank you again, Venerable Sanatha Vihari, and thank you for everybody being with us here today. Next Sunday, Subodh is going to Dhamma Talk. Please come and join next Sunday also. And by the power of the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha, power of the all the Buddhas, we're going to chant one small chant. Venerable, we can chant. Sabbe Buddha Palapatta Pacchikanancha Yambalang Arahantanancha Tejena Rakkang Vandami Sabbesu Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.